Mic check 1 2. It's the Y2K collector, and I'm really trying to decide whether I want my summer when it comes to any games that I do pick up. If I'm going to be looking more for the rare stuff, or if I'm going to be looking more for the more common games that are good that I don't yet have in my collection. And I'm really trying to base this decision on the difficulty level that I'll experience when trying to find and buy certain rare games and certain rare titles. Now, some of my most rare games and some of my most rare systems were not found out in the wild. I know there are some people who have just impeccable timing and amazing luck to be able to find, PC engines at a random yard sale. You've got those folks who are able to find just the most random systems in the most uncanny places. But I just don't have that type of luck. And so the track record for my collection and the history that I have in building my collection is that a lot of my most rare consoles and rare items, when I think about like my Neo Geo AES, for example, or even my Sega CDX, these were not consoles that I just found out in the wild. What I did was I found other games out in the wild and I bundled up a bunch of other games and then traded those games into local mom and pop shops to actually get some of these consoles. This AGS, this Neo Geo, was actually I traded for this at a mom and pop shop out of Brooklyn. Got a pretty good deal on it at the time as well. Came with 2 controllers, all of the hookups, and that same day, I believe I also got a copy of Magician Lord for the system. So it was a really good day that day in terms of finding a piece like this. Kind of a similar story here with the Sega CDX. This was a console that I wound up picking up from a local mom and pop shop after trading in a certain number of games because I didn't want to pay out of pocket for a Sega CDX because this console is going for like $400 at the time. And kind of similar story with the Neo Geo AES. These are like $400-500 consoles even to this day. And for me, it's a lot to shell out on a console. So, um, you know, I do have a decent Sega CD library, so I can add to it because I have a lot of the heavy hitting Sega CD games that I wanted for this console. There's only a few that I still really want in terms of heavy hitters for the Sega CD. KO Flying Squadron is definitely one. That's a super expensive game. And then you also have Pop Full Mail. That's another game that I want for the Sega CD. Those are 2 really cool, super exclusive games for the Sega CD. Pop Full Mail isn't as bad as KO. I think Pop Full Mail is like $400-500 for that game. I think KO Flying Squadron is like a $2,000-2,500 game. So it starts to get pretty crazy there. I'm not even gonna get into prices for Neo Geo games because we're just already talking in the thousands, and I'm not super married to the Neo Geo like that to where I feel the need to buy, all of the really expensive titles on the console. I'm just not that enamored by the Neo Geo. On top of the fact that the Neo Geo Mini is a great way of playing some of the best Neo Geo games on modern TVs. If you ever hook one of these Neo Geos up to your TV, you're not going to get like A1 picture quality. You can probably get decent picture quality if you connect it to the right TV, but using the Neo Geo Mini, honestly, I have a really good time just using the Neo Geo Mini. So, and again, there's not many games on the Neo Geo that I would want to get physically. The only real game that I want to get for the Neo Geo is a copy of Blazing Star, and I'm 99.9999999% sure that I will never find an authentic copy of Blazing Star just sitting around at a yard sale. So, for the games that I want on these consoles, it's going to take massive amounts of time, patience, and downright luck for me to find the types of games that I'm looking for on these consoles. And so that's a big part of the reason why I think my time will be better spent this summer, kind of looking for some more of those common titles that I don't yet have for some of the systems that I've been collecting for, whether it be like PlayStation 1. I think this is a great summer for picking up PlayStation 1 games, like some common PlayStation 1 titles. I'm talking about games like Mighty Number 9, Blasto, the Crash Bandicoot games, the Spyro games, just a lot of those PlayStation 1 titles that are super common but still super fun. Ape Escape. I think building back a solid PlayStation 1 collection of just some really good games, I think that's a really good way to go in terms of retro collecting. Also, I think like, even when you start to look at the Dreamcast, some of the more common titles on Dreamcast, I think that might be also another pretty good way to go. There's a ton of like common Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis stuff out there. For me personally, because I have already started these libraries, finding some of those titles might be cool as well. But it's a challenge, right? It's a challenge really trying to decide which direction I want to go. So I'm trying to figure this out. My only thing when it comes to adding some of the common stuff is that you can kind of get sucked in to just buying a bunch of stuff because it's so cheap. If you have the option of buying 5 games at $2 a pop or 10 games at $2 a pop, you're gonna want to wind up buying a bunch of like cheap stuff. And I'm really tight on space when it comes to the game room. I mean, if you look here, like the shelves are pretty much stacked to the brim. So like if I do try to begin adding any more stuff, I'm going to have to start to really sell some items. And I'm already in the process of selling off like doubles and some of the games that I don't plan on keeping, but trying to kind of add a lot of lower tier games just doesn't make sense for me space wise. But it is fun going after some of those cheaper titles again, especially PlayStation 1. There's so many really dope titles for the PlayStation 1 that aren't really expensive that it's just so tempting to dive in and just pick those up. And honestly, you can find a lot of those types of games at like mom and pop shops. You don't even have to really search too hard. But if we're talking just yard sales, thrift shops, pawn shops, Goodwills, things like that, if we're talking that, then the likelihood of me finding those types of games is a lot higher, like I said, than finding something for the Neo Geo or for the Sega CD. But you guys let me know your thoughts. What are you hunting for this spring and summer? Are you looking for the rare stuff? Or are you going after the common stuff? Is it pretty much you're going to take whatever you can find? Are you planning this out? Let me know down in the comments and I'll catch you in the next video. It's the Y2K Collector. Take it easy.